All right, there we go. Hello, guys. Hi, thank you for joining us here. We are here at Monterey County's NAACP branch's 50th Annual Freedom Fund of Life Membership Banquet and their 90-year anniversary celebration. Yes, that is really fun. I am your mistress of ceremony. My name is Alani Letang. I am the weekend anchor and reporter at KSBW Action News 8 Sunrise, or Action News 8, sorry. I'm still in work mode here. I would like to introduce our dais, our head table tonight. First, we are going to introduce our president for the NAACP Monterey County branch, Yvonne Thomas. Walking in with our keynote speaker, that is Kevin Green. I would then like to introduce the mayor of Seaside, Mayor Ian Oglesby. I would then like to introduce the U.S. Representative for District 20, that's Jimmy Panetta. Next, I would like to introduce Justin Tran. He is a representative for Senator John Laird's office. Can we all please rise for the presentation of the colors, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
March time. March. Left turn. March. Color guard. Halt. Present. Colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Colors reverse. March. Right turn. March. Forward. March.
Please take your seats. That was the Seaside High School Junior ROTC unit under the direction of Sergeant First Class Michael Miller. I would like to present our first speaker of the night. It's Yvonne Thomas. She will welcome us. She is our president of the NAACP Monterey County branch.
All right.
On behalf of the members of the Monterey County branch of the NAACP, I welcome you to our 50th Annual Freedom Fund Life Membership Banquet. We are so pleased that you are here to join us this evening as we also celebrate the occasion of our 90th anniversary. The COVID pandemic tried to rob us of this celebration, but we are all indeed survivors. And we've learned to not let adversity be a wall that acts as a barrier. But instead, we will use it as a stepladder and climb over it to our much-deserved successes. Coming together tonight for our first in-person banquet since 2019 is probably one of our most notable achievements. The theme of this year's banquet is 90 years of courage and power. The fight continues. And make no mistake about it, the fight does continue. Sometimes when looking out onto the world, we are laser focused on these often overwhelming and troubled times. Racism continues to rear its ugly head nationwide. And here at home, we have witnessed deliberate and disturbing acts in our own communities that have unleashed emotions of anger and sadness. If we don't use these events as a wake-up call and an opportunity to open the lines of communication between the races, then we are unfortunately doomed to repeat the past. Our task here in the great melting pot that is Monterey County has taught us that we must band together, reinforce necessary alliances, and serve as an example nationally and internationally, and show that there is room at the table for everyone. We are witnessing our ancestors' dreams, which was made possible by their tremendous sacrifice. They've laid the path for us to walk on, and it is now up to us to lean on their resilient spirit and draft a schematic diagram of the future that turns our generational pain into power. Earlier this month, we were so proud to witness the poise and courage of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. As she weathered a firestorm of personal and professional attacks on her judicial record and her character, but she persevered and will now be the first Black woman to serve as justice on our nation. Congratulations to all our honorees tonight. These are our role models. Never forget Monterey County's rich history of brilliant, trailblazing citizens. And a very sincere thank you to all of tonight's sponsors who helped make this event possible, and to our presenting sponsor, Chevron and Andrew Gailey, for their generous donation and continued support. So when you look back on this point in history, can you say you've done something to make our little piece of the world a better place? You've made a start by coming here tonight and joining and supporting us. You are all an example of how we can come together to advocate for our civil rights, claim our rightful seat at the table, and raise the next generation of leaders by holding our adversaries accountable. This is power. And this is what the NAACP stands for. Our Monterey County branch family thanks you for joining us on this very special evening. May you enjoy tonight's program as we shine the spotlight on our past 90 years. We've done it with courage, we've done it with power, and we will always do it with dignity and class, because we are the NAACP. All right. Thank you very much.
Couldn't you just feel the power in that speech? Yeah. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Jimmy Panetta.
Thank you, Alani. Thank you for the best introduction I've ever had. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am Jimmy Panetta, and I am the representative of the 20th Congressional District. It is an absolute honor that I get to be here to welcome all of you to the 50th Annual Freedom Fund Life Membership Banquet, during which we can celebrate 90 years of courage and strength by the Monterey County NAACP. Courage and strength are clearly important qualities that this branch has shown throughout its history. From its founder, Wellington Smith Sr., to people like Helen Rucker, and to its current day president, Yvonne Thomas. To all of you who are here in this room. Your courage, your strength is why the branch of this branch of the NAACP is the oldest and the boldest. Now, as your keynote speaker, Mr. Douglas Green, will tell you, the NAACP has been nothing but brave since its creation in 1909. But yes, it's upon that courage, upon that foundation, that we must continue to fight. Now, recent events at home and abroad make us realize that now more than ever, we must continue our fight for freedom, for equality, and for our rights, from Monterey County to the halls of Congress. And I can tell you that no matter the history that has been made, no matter the progress that has been done, more needs to be done. Now, I learned that lesson firsthand, serving in Congress with John Robert Lewis. I can tell you, stand here and tell you, I feel so lucky that I'm able to tell you that I served with John Lewis. But I do admit, I also feel overwhelmed and undeserving of the fact that I can stand here and say that I served with John Lewis. When you look at his legacy, when you learn everything that he has done, I can tell you that he would still come into the Ways and Means Committee room and tell us, never give up, never give in. That's why we in Congress have never given up. That's why we passed the national holiday to make Juneteenth the national day. That's why we continue to fight to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, but I can tell you, we will never give up and we will never give in when it comes to our voting rights. I say that because you won't let us give up. Right. I say that because the NAACP won't let us give up. And I say that because I know the members of Congress that I serve with. And they will never give up. One of those members is Greg Meeks. Greg Meeks is a congressman from New York. He's chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. You may have seen him on TV quite a bit lately, based on what's going on in Ukraine. And he told me this story that I believe epitomizes what we stand for. See, Greg Meeks used to be the driver for Muhammad Ali. And he told me this one time in New York when they were driving, Muhammad Ali saw a bunch of kids. He liked to mess around with kids, so he told them to pull over. So he pulled over, and he got out of the car, and he was shucking and driving and talking with the kids. And one of the kids said to the champ, he said, "Hey, champ, I got to see you fight about a year ago. And you know what? I'll never forget it." The champ said, "That's great." And he said, "Yeah, you know why I'll never forget it? Because I saw you get knocked down." Muhammad Ali said, "That wasn't me." And the kid said, no. I remember, it was a father-son thing, I was there, and I remember, your opponent got that lucky punch in and knocked you down. And Muhammad Ali said, "You're wrong, because you know what? I've never been knocked down. I'm either up or I'm getting up." And I can tell you, in Congress, there's a lot of times where you feel knocked down, but I'm proud to tell you, we are up and we're getting up. I can tell you when it comes to our voting rights, it may seem like it's not down, but it's up and we're getting up. And I can tell you that the NAACP of Monterey County, I congratulate you for being up and always getting up, especially when it comes to being in the fight for our freedom, for our equality, and for our democracy. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Congressman Panetta, very inspirational, very inspirational. Next, I would like to introduce our next speaker for an invocation. That is Pastor Artis Smith with New Hope Baptist Church in Salinas.
Thank you very much, fellow distinguished guests, Madam President, Congressman, Mayor, and to those who are gathered here. It is my distinct pleasure to provide with you the invocation for tonight. Let us pray. Father God, it is once again that we have come and gathered together under the umbrella of the NAACP. How grateful we are that even though COVID has reared its ugly head, that we're yet victorious and we're able to come and to celebrate 90 years of service, 90 years of fighting. And for that reason, we want to thank you and invoke your spirit on tonight. We ask that you would be among us and with us, and to show us and to guide us and to remind us of what you said to us in the 6th chapter of Micah, that you have showed us, O man, what is good and what doth you require of us, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. Thank you for allowing us to continue this fight. Be with us here, now, and forevermore. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let me bless the food while I'm here. Father, we ask that you bless the food that we're about to receive. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We covered all our bases. Okay, dinner is served now, but I want to remind everyone we have our silent auction over here, all the way on these tables. There's paintings, there's books, including books that are donated by our own keynote speaker. We also want to get rid of the centerpieces, so $25 is your best offer. The sheets over there, you can sign up if you'd like to take one of the centerpieces home. So please check out our auction and enjoy dinner. We're going to pick back up with our program, and the first person I want to introduce back to our program will be Justin Tran. He is a representative for Senator John Laird's office. We'll bring him up to the stage.
Hi, you guys. It is an honor to be here, and I'm just going to mention that Senator Laird is disappointed at not being able to attend. He had long had this on his calendar, and unfortunately, a last-minute emergency has kept him from being here. However, I do have a statement to read from the Senator, which starts by acknowledging that the NAACP has been a leading national and local organization that has been at the forefront of civil rights in good times and bad. Senator Laird often recounts when he was growing up in high school in Vallejo, there were 2 Elks clubs, one that discriminated on the basis of race and one that did not. Twice he won the speech contest of the Navy City Elks Club, which did not discriminate. That experience moved him so that in his state assembly service, he successfully authored multiple civil rights bills that were signed into law. One of them, which was sponsored by the state's NAACP. But tonight, we celebrate the achievements of the Monterey County NAACP, which, since its inception, has been given a variety of awards, including the 2013 Ruby McKnight Williams Award. This chapter has been active for over 90 years because of the dedicated individuals in this room who understand that there is still work to be done, and we must continue the fight, not only in this community, but across our state and across our country. On behalf of the California Legislature, I would like to present this resolution commemorating the decades of service and the pivotal role the chapter has played in fighting for what is right. On behalf of Senator Laird, I want to congratulate the Monterey County NAACP and wish you all the best of success as you move towards the future.
Thank you, Justin, from Senator John Laird's office. Next, we would like to hear a few words from our mayor of Seaside, that's Mayor Ian Oglesby. Let's welcome him to the stage.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I welcome all of you to the Naacp Monterey County Branch 50th Annual Freedom Fund Life Membership and 90th year anniversary celebration. For the past 90 years, this branch, through its members and supporters, have led the fight to improve and protect the civil rights and human rights of all. Our local history is rich with examples of these fights, learning from our losses, and moving forward after wins. As we celebrate the 90 years of work, and it is work, and for some of us it's a labor of love, Mr. Green will naturally remind us of the fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion did not start with us. I can only hope that some of us in this room will be here when that fight is finally won. We honor the courage and strength of those who come before us. One that could not be here tonight, but that is here in spirit, is Mr. John Nash, Sr. He's at the fairgrounds celebrating his 90th year birthday. And like I told Mr. Nash in the group a few minutes ago, that we can only imagine the struggles and the trials and tribulations that people of that age, that peer group, that generation did to get us here today. The fights that they had to endure to get us here today. We can only imagine. And so I say, we honor the winners and honorees here tonight. We honor their courage and their strength, and for those who have come before us. On behalf of our residents and our city council, I say to you, if you have been in the fight, thank you for your courage and welcome. If you're still in the fight, thank you for your strength and welcome. If it's your turn to pick up the baton, pick up the baton because the fight continues. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to take the time to recognize some elected officials that are in the crowd this evening. We have Ana Velasquez, the Mayor of Soledad. You just want to raise your hand. We have David Pacheco, Seaside Mayor Pro Tem. Alexis Garcia Arzola, Seaside City Council Member. Berkeley Brandon, Chief Assistant District Attorney for Monterey County. Tyler Williamson, Monterey City Council Member. We have PK Diffenbach, Monterey Peninsula Unified School District Superintendent. I also have Betty Luss, a Monterey Peninsula Unified School District Board Trustee. We have Alana Miles, another Monterey Peninsula Unified School District Board Trustee. And Jeff Lucia, another MPUSC Board Trustee. We also have Blanca Baltazar Sabah, the Assistant Superintendent at Salinas Unified School District. We have Allie Manis, a representative from Assemblymember Mark Stone's office. And we have longtime civil rights advocates, voter advocate, just an all-around great person, Ms. Helen Rucker. We all love this song. We also want to be blessed with a vocal performance today. We have Candy Thomas. Just want to introduce her. She is a resident of Seaside. She's a gospel singer, an actress, a retired local business owner, a published author, and a playwright. That's Candy Thomas. She will be accompanied by Bobby Peoples.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. First and foremost, giving all glory to God and Jesus Christ. Christ the King of my life. And all of the dignitaries present today, the leadership of NAACP, giving them thanks for this wonderful opportunity to come before you. I want you to just relax and enjoy my presentation. It is inspired by the life of the late great gospel singer, civil rights activist, Mahalia Jackson. I see because of the head. I see because I'm free. It's all the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. You know, I can think of no better musical frame for the picture of my life than his eye is on the spell written by Charles Deacon and Savannah Martin. Because his eye was on me when I was born in 1911, October 26th. I lived in a shabby shack that was so close to the railroad tracks that every time train passed by the shivering shit. But you know, they didn't stop us from getting all dressed up in our Sunday best to go to church and sing God's praises. Because I love to sing the Lord. That sad when my parents passed away when I was a young girl and I had to go in with family. But you know, the pain of that loss, the God has transformed that into deeper song. And at the age of, I was in my late teens when I moved to Chicago with a young family. And right after that, the depression hit, you know. Old times were hard. Oh my goodness, you know, I call myself blessed if I was able to get 50 cents or $1 doing domestic work and singing the machines. Oh, and it just broke my heart. To see men who had lost their pride and were hungry on the streets. I didn't bring out much, y'all, but I took the little that I had and I took them folks in the house that I had. And I didn't give them no soup. I gave them something real stupid for a little while. Cold bread and some beans and some neck bones and something. Yeah. You know, because I believe that, you know, to serve God is to serve our fellow man. You see, God wants us to learn how to love and help each other. And in the spirit of that song, that's the song that we really sing. If I can help somebody, that song was written by Emma and Joyce. If I can help somebody as I travel alone, if I can help somebody in a word or a song, if I can help somebody from doing wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. No. then my lips shall not be in vain. Now you know you can't give God giving. I give God my gift, and He blessed me. He blessed that little orphan child. He blessed her to grow up and become famous. You know, over my 40 years of career, I sold 22 million records. And I won many Grammys. You know, the Lord allowed me to sing His gospel message before presidents and prime ministers. Oh, yes, and God blessed me to meet Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1956. And I used to travel with him for the civil rights meetings. I'd sing and be free. Oh, I remember the march on Washington for freedom and jobs. August 28, 1963. Oh, now when I come to that podium and I look down over that crowd of 250,000 people, they were like an ocean of people as far as I could see. Oh, and I sing these two songs before Martin was going to preach. I said, how I got over, that's with my Alma and Rosa. And I say, I've been buked and I've been stoned. And that was written by Hal Johnson, you know. Yes, how I got over, how I got over. You took my soul, how I got over. How I got over, Lord, Lord, Lord. Coming up the line, you took my soul, you got to wonder how I got over. Well, soon as I could see Jesus, the man who died for me, the man who led someone, you know he was the devil. I'm gonna think for Hollywood, think for Hollywood, baby. I'm gonna think for Hollywood. I'm gonna think that I'm gonna thank Him for all His everything. I'm gonna thank Him for giving me a vision. Oh, I'm gonna join the choir. I'm gonna sing and never be tired. I'm gonna sing all around the altar. I'm gonna sing, oh, hallelujah. I'm gonna thank Him. Thank God for being, oh, hallelujah, so good, so good to me. I've been scorned. Oh, I've been and I've been scorned. I've been rebuked and I've been scorned. You know I've been talked about, sure as you born. I'm gonna tell my Lord when I get home. I'm gonna tell my Lord when I get home. have a dream speech. And you know, God went to him and I said, hey, Mark, tell him about your dream. And then he shifted into I have a dream part of the speech. And when he finished that, he stood there and he spoke a word of the Negro spiritual, free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty. I'm free at last. And that crowd just ruptured. You know, they was overflowing with new hope. And they exploded in applause. You know, the March on Washington resulted in very good civil rights legislation. Unfortunately, 24th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was fatally shot. I was there in his funeral to sing his favorite song, Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Lead Me On. I sung it with a broken heart. Yes, Lord. But you know, God would not have allowed Dr. Martin Luther King to be taken before he finished his assignment, before he had finished his part in the civil rights fight. And you know, right now, he's rejoicing around the throne of God. And you know, the generation with Dr. King has carried on and took that toll, and that toll has been ringing, and it's been ringing, and it's been ringing, and they passed the torch for freedom onto the younger generations. And you know what? My God, the God who sits high, the God who sits high and looks low, he is able to give these young folks the strength to carry on, and we shall overcome. We shall overcome. Oh, child. My soul feels happy now. My soul feels happy now. I see. Because I'm happy. On January 27, 1972. And right now, she's joined that heavenly choir. And you know, there wasn't enough time to tell you all the wonderful things that Mahalia Jackson did, the awards and the honorary degrees she got. There's not time to tell you all that, but I can give you a little hint. I'm putting together a show, a full woman show of Mahalia Jackson in the future, so keep your ear to the ground. But what I want to tell you, did my very best to represent Mahalia in a raspy, buttery way of singing the tones of her voice, and to represent her spirit-led words. I did the best that I could, but I agree with Dr. Martin Luther King. You know what he said about that? He said that she had a voice that only came once in a million. And to that I close and sing, amen. And amen. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, and Madam President, members of the dais, members of the executive committee, esteemed MC, and Mistress of the ceremony, and to all of you, my sisters and brothers in struggle, I give you greetings. My name is Mel Mason, and I had the privilege of being president of the Monterey Peninsula and then Monterey County branch of the Naacp 3 times. It's a privilege to be asked to kind of give a little bit of account of history with regard to these 90 years that we're celebrating today. 90 years. 90 years. And we often told our friends and members, and also those who were not necessarily our friends, the NAACP branch in this county ain't going nowhere. You may be going somewhere, but the branch ain't going nowhere. And so 90 years later, we are still here. I just want to give a backdrop, because I do kind of a brief, historical on the development of the NAACP in Monterey County. There is a backdrop, as it is in most historical occurrences. And this backdrop begins in the period of 1902 to 1904. And that was when the 9th Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers, as we fondly remember them, came out here on an order from the U.S. government to build, something like a fort that we now know as the Presidio of Monterey. And amongst those Buffalo soldiers were two brothers named Henry and Louis Smith. They had a brother that was living in another part of the country by the name of Wellington. So they contacted Wellington and said, "Hey brother, there's a cool place out here that I think you might like called Pacific Grove." A little bit later, Reverend Wellington Smith Sr. and his wife, who us youngsters used to call Miss Evelyn, moved here. They were two of the central founders of the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP. Another part of this backdrop happened in April of 1906. There was a gentleman, brother by the name of Rutherford Walker, who was on a train to San Francisco. While he was sitting there, he spied I think an incredibly fine woman by the name of Minnie Lee Davis. And I think Rutherford, as I understand it, tried to get a swerve on him. So he wanted to talk to Minnie Lee, and apparently she didn't pay him a lot of mind. But what happened in April 1906, April 18th, 1906, as they were pulling into the station in Salinas, was the great San Francisco earthquake. So Rutherford had more time to get himself together because they couldn't go anywhere else. To make a long story short, they ended up having people had to stay in Salinas, and then he and Minnie Lee Davis moved to Pacific Grove where they got married. They had, I believe, 7 children, and they made their home there. Rutherford Walker and Miss Minnie Lee were also part of the founders of the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP. They had, as I said, I believe it was 7 children, one of whom was named Letitia Walker, later McSween. Letitia McSween became a long-time member of the executive committee of the NAACP branch, and also was his longtime secretary. Her daughter, Marguerite McSween Fern, in addition to becoming an educator, was also a longtime member of the executive committee of the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP as well. So you can see it went from Rutherford and Minnie Lee all the way down to Marguerite. I was hoping Marguerite would be here today, but I don't think she is. But there you have 3 generations of the NAACP, from one of its co-founders all the way down to Marguerite. Letitia also was the youth advisor for the Monterey Peninsula branch. And she, after a number of years, decided to relinquish that position, the position of youth advisor. And she mentored a woman by the name of Regina Mason. Regina became the youth advisor and stayed such for about 10 or 11 years. And during that time, and constantly, being in touch with Letitia, something came out of that mentorship called the Youth Summits, the annual Youth Summits that started in 1994 and went on for 25 years. Letitia McSween had a big role in that happening, as well as some of our other leaders of the NAACP. I think someone that you'll be hearing from a little bit later will talk more maybe about that as well. But this just shows you the continuity of what happened with this branch of the NAACP. So as we roll back to the founding, it's important to note that not everybody was happy that Reverend Wellington Smith and his wife, Miss Evelyn, Rutherford, and his wife, Miss Minnie, and the other members that came together to form the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP, which happened in Pacific Grove. And I believe that there'll be a talk about the role that First Baptist Church played in the formation of that NAACP branch as well. That branch took on every single inequity that confronted black people. Everything from deed-restricted properties, which lasted a very long time, to inequities in terms of education, and also having to deal with police. This is 1932. If you think racism is bad now, and it is, can you imagine what racism was like in 1932? That they had to deal with and persevere through death threats. Because again, not everybody wanted the NAACP around here. But they did that. They weren't deterred at all. And one of the things that I think that we also have to pay attention to is the courageous role that women played in the NAACP from back then until now. And so moving forward, and again, this is a kind of a cursory view of history because of time. There's so much more to cover. And I'm going to suggest that maybe one day we have a complete workshop training forum on the history of the NAACP here so that we can really give the full-fledged memories and the version of what happened here with this branch. But as we roll forward to 1939, there was a woman by the name of Agnes Tebow, who many of us know, or knew, and she passed away a number of years ago. But Miss Tebow moved from Texas to Salinas and ran into a gentleman by the name of Mr. William Greenwell. And they became the co-founders of the Salinas branch of the NAACP. Again, we're talking about 1939, we're talking about Salinas. Can you imagine what racism was like then? We know what racism is like now, but can you imagine what racism was like for the less than 50 black people that lived in Salinas at that time? So they decided, Ms. Tebow and Mr. Greenwell decided that they were going to build a branch of the NAACP in Salinas. The problem was that they needed to have 50 signatures of members in order to send, to be able to qualify to become a branch. So they had to send those 50 signatures into the national headquarters, national NAACP headquarters. They didn't have 50 black people. They didn't have anywhere near 50 black people. And so they got a lot of white people to sign the petition so that they would have 50 or more. And Mrs. Tebow had mentioned a few times that they sold the idea to whites that we would like to have a social organization. Could you sign this petition? And so the people said, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, we'll sign it. So they signed the petition, and after they signed it, Ms. Depot said she told them, and also, you know, I forgot to mention, you know, we do civil rights. But she said that to their credit, not a single white person asked to have their names removed from the petition. So that petition went forward, and they became the Salinas branch of the NAACP. So now we had two branches of the NAACP here in Monterey County. That branch took on every single inequity that confronted black people in Salinas. More black people did come, but they came to a Salinas that now had an established NAACP branch. And again, not everybody in Salinas liked the idea of having the NAACP there. So Mr. Greenwell, Ms. Tebow, the members of the Boutte family, which is a central family in the history of black people in Salinas, they all received their share of death threats and things like that as well. I'm pointing this out to say that when we start thinking about doing work in the NAACP, this is what we're carrying on. This is the legacy that we're carrying on. This is a legacy of confronting and not being deterred by fear. That they had a bigger goal in mind, and that bigger goal was about all of us in this room and beyond. And so they weren't going to be deterred because somebody called up in the middle of the night and said, I'm going to bomb your house. They said, I dare, because I'm getting up this morning, we're going to go out, we're going to go to war against people like you. So this was the courage that was there. I want to roll forward just a little bit. I'm conscious of time, and I'm also conscious that we can't cover everything. I don't want to leave us too incomplete. But if you look at page 23 in your program, you're going to see a bunch of former presidents. These are the folks whose shoulders will stand up. These are the folks who made it possible for us to be here tonight. And so as we look at them, then we have a responsibility to make the commitment that they made. We have to make a commitment that talks about this legacy and that we're pushing this legacy forward because we still got battles to fight.
That's right.
Our voting rights are under attack. Is that right? Our voting rights are under attack. The NAACP is the only organization that is capable of mobilizing people to make sure that our voting rights are saved. That we defend ourselves, we defend what we got, and we extend what we got. And we got the organization called the NAACP to be able to do that with. Thank goodness for all of these people who came before us. We stand on their shoulders. We say that, sometimes I think we say it because it's almost cliche-ish, if that's the right word. But it's not. It is the absolute fact. As a boy, I was sitting, and I think I was in my junior year of high school, at Monterey High School, and I saw this tall, elegant black man on television. His name was Pastor Richard Mann. Some of us knew him. I certainly did. And he was walking down Alvarado Street, walking into stores and places of business by himself, confronting the owners and managers are saying, I don't see anybody working in here that looks like me. When are you going to change that? And then he did press conferences. He was president of the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP doing that. I had the privilege when I the first time I became president, of going to Reverend Nance, because I wanted to hear about this big struggle that he had against the deed-restricted properties in Pacific Grove, a place called the Triangle, that eventually the Monterey Peninsula branch helped that struggle become a success. And when I walked into his office, and he took out a Bible, and I think he thought I came there for prayer. And I'm sure, as I told him years later, I'm sure I needed it. But what I wanted him to talk to me about was how he won that struggle in Pacific Grove and how he built all those allies with whites and others. And like a lot of our older people, you know, he never talked to anybody about what he had done. People knew him as a great pastor. You know, we used to call him the professor. But people knew him as a great pastor. But a lot of the younger people didn't know that he was a civil rights warrior that had made things so much more possible for us in terms of positive things that we were able to do that we weren't able to do before he came along. So Pastor Nance is another one of those people whose shoulders we stand on. And literally, I sat on the floor in his office while he talked. And he talked to me for about 2 hours because he hadn't talked to anybody else about a lot of these things. All he was concerned about was that he got things done. And then he moved on and he pastored the living head out of First Baptist Church. I think all of us will agree with that. So what I'm saying is that we have to keep this history going. We have to keep this history alive. You know, our young people need to know this history. You know, I don't have time tonight to go through everything that I wanted to, except that in 2006, and then I'll take my seat. I know I'm probably way over my time, Madam President, but I'm talking about the Naacp, so I kind of have a hard time shutting up. But as we roll forward in all of those years where we had those two branches, and we worked together a lot on a lot of cases, a lot of jobs that got, where people were wrongfully terminated and got their jobs back. We had restaurants that were refusing or at least being slow about serving black people. And so by the time that our two branches got through with those businesses and stuff, you know, they were in love with us. They wanted to be our partners. They were for civil rights. They started coming out with all these platitudes and stuff like that because, pardon my expression, they got their behind foot by these two branches. But we figured at some point, you know, since we're all working together in different cases, doesn't it make more sense to have one branch? Instead of having two medium-sized bad branches, maybe it's better to have one big bad one. And so in 2006, we made the decision to merge the branches. Now, we tried that once before. And some of our older folks in both branches said, no, not my branch. Y'all ain't get my branch. And so it failed. This time, we had this woman named Agnes Tebow. Agnes came in, she was in her 90s, and she met with her branch, and I think she probably met with some of our members as well, saying, this is what's needed. So it made the job of myself. I was the last president of the Monterey Peninsula branch, and an assistant named Carol Alani, who happened to be the last president of the Salinas branch, made our work easier. And so we had the president of the state Naacp, and now dearly departed brother, Dan Daniels, whose funeral services we went to yesterday, really hurtful. But the two of them came down and oversaw a vote that was taken. We went to a restaurant in Marina, and the place was packed with people from both branches, and even people who couldn't make it had called up or they sent notes saying, I vote yes. And so when they called for the vote, with our state president being there to see it, it was a unanimous vote that we merged both of those branches and became the Monterey County branch of the Naacp. That's how that happened. One of the things that we wanted to make sure happened, and this gentleman over here with the camera, William Ziegler, is the first president of the Monterey County branch of the Naacp. And so we rolled on from there. But I just wanted to make sure that you understood how this all happened. And one of the things that we did, and I think somebody took the banner, but William's wife, Jan, actually created a banner in which there was the big logo and the big lettering that said Monterey County branch of the NAACP. And in one corner, there was a smaller logo in the left corner that said Monterey Peninsula Branch 1932, and in the other corner was Salinas Branch 1939. So we wanted to make sure that both of those branches were never, ever forgotten. Because if it wasn't for the two of them, we probably wouldn't be sitting here tonight. So thank you very much for putting up with me. And please join the Monterey County branch of the oldest and the biggest, the baddest and the boldest, the most deserving, the most discredited, the most revered, the most feared, big and bad NAACP. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that history. So we need that on the shirt. Big and bad NAACP Monterey County branch. All right, I'm pleased to next welcome another performance today. We have Monterey County poet laureate Daniel Summerhill. Just a little introduction here. He's the Assistant Professor of Poetry and Social Action and Composition Studies at California State University, Monterey Bay. He has performed in over 30 states, the UK, and was invited by the U.S. Embassy to guest lecture and perform in South Africa. So many great things about Daniel. I can't wait to hear it.
Good evening. I'm sad to say I won't be performing. However, I will read an excerpt of a poem. When I was asked to speak, I was told to share a little bit about the position of the poet laureate, and then a little bit about myself, and then also share a poem. So that's what I'm going to do. First, thank you to the NAACP. And shout out to y'all for making it 90 years, right? Celebration of 90 years. That's a huge accomplishment. And thanks to Dr. Vanessa Littleton for inviting me to kind of speak, and to Madam President, and all the folks that kind of made this event possible. So a little bit background about myself. I grew up 2 hours north of here in Oakland, a place in which the legacy of the fight for freedom and equality hangs over the city, revealing itself in street names, lineage, grassroots organizing, a place that birthed the Black Panthers, among other organizations dedicated to uplifting Black population and forging on our behalf. I've lived in this area since the fall of 2019 when I joined CSUMB as the Assistant Professor of Poetry, Social Action, and Composition Studies. And in 2021, I was invited and nominated to apply for the inaugural position of the Poet Laureate in Monterey County. Many states, cities, and counties select Poet Laureates in order to uphold this literary tradition. The United States has selected 53 different Poet Laureates since 1937. Some notable Black national Poet Laureates include Robert Hayden, Rita Dove, Gwendolyn Brooks, Tracy K. Smith, to name a few. Here in Monterey County, the Poet Laureate is an honorary position that celebrates the county of Monterey, the cultural heritage, and promotes literacy, especially among young folks. My charge is to expand the awareness of poetry and to expand the kind of reach of poetry throughout the entire county, especially to the youth. I am also responsible for leading a community project to make poetry more accessible, which you'll hear from me about in the coming months. When I begin to consider what to say to celebrate a sustained commitment to fighting for equality and justice, I thought, what is there to say to people that know better than anyone the ingredients of courage and the poise of power? What is there to say to an organization that has committed themselves to the disruption of injustice, especially since every day we see the insidiousness of racism rear its head? Now, more than ever, in the unequal effects of COVID-19, state-sanctioned genocide, racial capitalism, and the dream we are marching towards in this work is massive and one that seems out of reach. I would say, in the words of my literary ancestor, James Baldwin, hope is invented daily. My personal goal for myself is to wake up each day and to do better. If nothing else, I will do better. Acclaimed author Ta-Nehisi Coates says the struggle in and of itself has meaning. Your work, your courage, your power, your charge has meaning. Also, ain't we the flyest group of folks working for humanity? Ain't we fly? Don't we be brown unapologetically? All new Negro movement and fist on Pennsylvania Avenue, ain't we right now? Like yesterday happened, we'll go to a funeral tomorrow, but today is kissing my forehead soft, so I think I'll stay here for a while. Angry magician, make a feast out of famine and few, turn a pot of collard greens into a love story, the kind of dopamine that'll put you to sleep. Ain't we bold? Don't we sing gospel hymns on Sunday mornings and redemption songs on Monday night? Ain't we fly? Don't we make up a new grammar? Like the dictionary was too boring, so we add an extra syllable to the end of baby girl's name. Ain't there a red line under ain't because it still hasn't made its way into the Webster Dictionary? Don't we make the alphabet sound cool? Euphemisms and sublime because ain't politically correct. My Ebonics is a language. You can't understand me because you refuse to listen. Ain't we fly? Don't our crowns be heavy, but we still manage to keep our heads up, make a movement out of a movement. We dance until our lineage drips from our pores, sing both folk and Negro spiritual, sing an angelic dialect, sing we shall overcome, sing we gon' be all right, ain't we fly? Don't we defy binary, make space between brawny and plush, find comfort in valley. Even as the sun skips past the spine of America, we still wake up each day and send shock waves to the central cerebral cortex. We do both blood and backbone of this country. Yes, all 5/5, hair coiled in harmony like Black Fist. Sing in the same tongue we learned to pray in. We knew poetry before we knew God, the way our elders showed us the song. Our breath we worship, ain't we fly? Ain't this poem a celebration of those things they either mock or claim as their own? For that little black boy who was silenced in elementary school, when he told his teacher he wanted to be a rapper when he grew up, I say freestyle, black boy. Music is our blues, our bond, our praise, our peace, our voice. In praise of our voice, sing, we gon' be all right, sing. We gon' be all right, sing. We gon' be all right. So shortly, shortly after I was elected the first poet laureate of Monterey County, I drove to Carmel and I sat in front of the Innisfree, the home in which poet Langston Hughes stayed while on an attempted writing retreat in 1933. Hughes was invited by Noel Sullivan, a son of a family with ties to San Francisco wealth. The name of the cottage, Innisfree, a soft mustard-colored house with brick outlining its mouths. Out of one of those mouths, Langston Hughes fled after hearing of threats to his life by locals. According to the Monterey County Weekly, on September 6th, the Carmel Village Daily noted his arrival or sounded an alarm. Color poet here. In 1933, in the Valley of the Great Depression, Hughes, on the upswing of his literary career, published 2 volumes, I Too Sing America and I Dream of a World. Speaking about his role as a social poet, Langston Hughes said, "The moon belongs to everybody." I liken this idea to poetry being of and for the people. In this way, we are all both admirers of the moon and also keepers of it. Hughes spoke of his early work as social poems because they were about people's problems, whole groups of people's problems, rather than his own personal difficulties. Hughes' statement echoes the importance of empathy and the human requirement to be understood and to understand. However, the rhetoric and discourse of equality and equity was not a favorite among folks in the Monterey area. So Hughes left after a short stay, fearing for his life. He returned in 1939 and subsequently completed a collection of short stories that loosely chronicles his stay while here, called The Ways of White Folks. Hughes understood the position he was in as a truth teller and dove headfirst into the fire. After I left Innisfree Cottage, I went down to Scenic Road and had a seat on a wooden bench while I read James Baldwin's No Name in the Street. I looked up frequently through the loose fog. I imagined Langston Hughes sat on that very edge of California, among many other shores. But this view, this water, a shared experience. Outside of a golf resort, peeling away Earth's flesh like a fresh deep wound, the coast is everything a coast can be. Perilous, beautiful, and circadian. It must have been a peculiar paradigm for Hughes. The ocean's lip just a handful of steps away, and the inevitability of racism at his back. However, this is where he decided to write. And every day I call Monterey County home, I consider his reasons why. Baldwin tells us if we are afraid of something, to walk towards it. Toni Morrison taught me that the only way to avoid the hand of God was to get in it. Langston Hughes believed in this too. He believed in this relentless dichotomy, to enter the belly of the beast, not in a particularly heroic way, but in a way in search of the smallest sparkle of humanity. For even a slither of humanity births a universe of empathy. The empathy required to see the humanity and personhood of our peers. Hughes embodied empathy and compassion, which are both prerequisites for the courage and power that allowed him to speak truth to power. Now, as the first poet laureate of Monterey County, a county sprawling in both ocean water and forest, concrete and farmland, a place that Esalen nurtured the land and thrived for generations, here, despite them being unseated, continued to steward this land. I must look to Hughes for guidance on this position. Hughes, who says the moon belongs to everyone and isn't for sale, but for admiration, curiosity, wonder, and chronicling. As poet laureate, I am in service first to the land, then the people of the land, from the bustling areas of Salinas to the brim of King City and the acute corners of Sand City in between. Poetry is both for the people and of the people. So, after tonight's event, when you look up at the moon and consider its proximity to Earth, remember you have more in common with your neighbor than you think. Your neighbor who may not speak the same language or eat the same food, they too look up in adulation of the moon. The same moon Langston Hughes once marveled at from the coast of Carmel and proclaimed he too was American.
Another branch historian, that's Ms. Jackie Craighead. She is also the past president of the Monterey County NAACP branch.
Yeah, right.
I also ran into our grocery outlet this week and we talked about this event, so I'm happy to see her again.
Thank you. Yes, we were at the frozen food section and I saw them standing there. I said, hey, I think I know you. Not personally, but I've seen you many times. Anyway, beautiful lady, thank you so much for being here. To the president, to officers, members, friends of the Monterey Peninsula, Monterey County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That's what it stands for. We've had many conversations about whether we should change it, I say no, because that's where it started, that's where it needs to stay. I'm so glad that Mel Mason was here before me because he gave some really very good information about a lot of history of this NAACP in this area. But I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about where it started 90 years ago, 1932, at the First Baptist Church of Pacific Grove. Now, I bring you greetings from that church. Our pastor is here tonight. I'd like him to stand, please. Stand. This is our pastor. Reverend Phillips. Thank you very much. So I have some things written here, and I've been jotting down some more information because things come to mind as you're putting it together. Our local branch was organized in 1932 by the Reverend Wellington Smith, who was the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Pacific Grove. Now, if you would go to St. James Methodist CME Church in Salinas, they have a huge photograph of him in their social hall. That's a Methodist church, Pacific Grove First Baptist Church. So we all interacted together, and we got together to do what was needed to be done for our community. Being the oldest African American church in Monterey County, the Central Coast, and beyond, it was the center of social affairs, civil rights, and of course, the spiritual leader for people of color. We have been in existence in Pacific Grove for 113 years as of August 9th of this year. Now we can be called the mother church, the grandmother church, or whatever you want to call it, but we were the first. So somehow, almost all of the other churches, African American churches, came out of Pacific Grove First Baptist in one way or another. Oh, well, we have the membership, and this member doesn't like what's happening, so they go and start another church. And then that church is started, and then they start another one, and another one, and another one, and that's how this all started in 1909. Over the years, First Baptist Church has received the highest number of awards and trophies from a local branch. Examples being most life memberships, most golden heritage memberships, youth memberships. Our many members have served on the executive committee. Examples being Stephen E. Ross, we all know that name. There's a huge monument to him on the grounds of City Hall. Stephen E. Ross was a deacon trustee, First Baptist Church. He was elected mayor. He served his community until he died. That's First Baptist Church. Reverend Richard Nance. Now, I can't do much better than what Mel did, talking about Reverend Nance. And one thing that I can add to that is that he integrated the Pacific Grove Kiwanis Club. But as Mel said, he was a statesman, he was well respected, and he did a lot of good in this community. Another person that was very much involved in the NAACP was retired Major Jonathan Bean. He was a deacon, I think he was a deacon at First Baptist Church and on the trustee board. We think about Clarence Lucas, who served as treasurer of the Monterey Peninsula branch for over 30 years. And there was never a hint of any money going missing. And we think about Dr. Benjamin Shaw. He was a dentist here in the area, and he was a retired major from the Army. He was the president of this branch for many years. And he was a board of trustees and on the and president of the Usher Board at First Baptist Church, Pacific Road. Think about Sherman Smith, retired major, who was a deacon and trustee at First Baptist Church, Pacific Road, and he was a Tuskegee Airman. He served as president, vice president, he was on different committees for over 50 years. His wife, Elizabeth Smith, was a deaconess at First Baptist Church. She was the chair of the youth council. She was chair of AXO. She established the largest fundraising event, the Mrs. NAACP contest, and later included, we started a Mr. NAACP contest. Now people like to say the Mr. and Mrs. NAACP contest. No, it was the Mrs. NAACP contest and then the Mr. NAACP contest. Well, through the over years, maybe 10 years or more, I think that event raised probably over $100,000 for this branch. And that was just merely getting community people who were interested in helping our branch to raise money. And we had the ball was fabulous. We had some of the people that came to crown our queen and king are well-known Hollywood stars, to include Clint Eastwood, Dennis Richmond, if you all remember the handsome guy that was a news anchor in Oakland. I think it was Kate. I forget anyway. Remember Dennis Richmond? He came and crowned our queen and king. We had Belva Davis. We had Greg Morris. You remember him from Mission Impossible? He came and crowned our queen one time. We had Janae DuBois. She was on Good Times. Remember her? Well, all of these people came and participated with us for that event. That was all organized by Deaconess Elizabeth Smith from First Baptist Church. The Smith's grandson competed on the national level with AXO in the competition there, and he brought home the bronze medal in oratory. And I remember seeing him standing there, and the last thing he said in front of probably several thousand people, and my name is Vincent Smith, and I'm from Seaside, California, and I'm proud of it. So anyway, now we had Frances Armstrong, First Baptist Church audit chair and education chair. She served as secretary of this branch and the educational chair of this branch for many years. And you also have on your program the Talley and Cleo Martin Spirit of Partnership Award. They were two very devoted members of First Baptist Church for many, many, many years. And you can see how they participated, and we have an award named after them because they gave us some money. Now, yours truly, Jackie Craighead, served as president for 4 years. And I was on vice president and served on many committees. Now, Mel mentioned the Youth Summit. I think I was president when we had the first one of those. And besides, Mel, remember when I was working at the bank and I kept asking you, you need to be president, you need to be president. He finally came on as president, so we were real fortunate about that. Several years ago, Craigheads opened their art gallery in Carmel, our branch, to host a reception for Julian Bond. And he was at the time the chairman of the National NAACP, I think. And that event was very well attended. I think we had about 75 or 100 people there. And I think they paid about $75 or $100 to come. So we raised the money for the branch. Anyway, I think I've said enough about just a little bit of how First Baptist has been part of this branch, an integral part of this branch from the inception. And we still have a lot of work to do. And thank you very much.
I first want to introduce John Smith. He is an executive committee member here with the NAACP, and he will present the Silver Life membership presentation and the Gold Life membership.
I'm John Smith, and I'm here to present these awards. I am also a member of the executive committee of the NAACP. And tonight, we're going to give an award to Reginald Garnett. And I don't see him here tonight.
Here we go. Check. We were good. We're good.
Also, we have another award for the Taylors, Robert and Jean Taylor. It's a Silver Light recipient. And I believe we have someone accepting that in their stead, since they're not here tonight. Maybe the pastor? All right. We're going to find out.
Take two. Good.
Okay, that wrapped up the Silver Life. Now look at the Gold Life. Mr. Ben Cooper. I do know we have you. Oh, yes? Yes, he's also an active member on the committee, on the executive committee for the NAACP. He's been on the committee for some time now.
Up there. Yeah, there you go. Now you can get a shot.
All right, we're going to hear our first award of the night, the President's Award, that will be presented by none other than our President, Yvonne Thomas.
It is a distinct honor for me tonight to present the President's Award to Mr. Josh Stewart.
Yeah.
Mr. Stewart was president a couple of years ago when I first joined the branch, and I'm proud to consider him a mentor and a friend. I was able to go around with Josh to several events and listen to him discuss his history with civil rights, and him also pushing on me that you should run for president. No.
That one too, right?
But it's because of Mr. Stewart that I decided to run, and I was listening to him, his history with civil rights, and I said, Josh, I don't have the history that you have. And he said, Yvonne, just be yourself. So this is my mentor, this is my friend, and I'm so proud to present this award to him this evening.
Let me see the plaque, dude. This way. Good. We got it.
It's so great to have Yvonne to present me with the President's Award. And it was due to sickness that I had to give up president. In fact, I was in my second term. But it was great. Now, is Ann still here? Our city mayor. I think he and Congressman Jimmy Panetta both left in before I got up here because I was going to mention the fact that some things that we haven't done that need to be done, especially with the fact that the senior citizens that over 65 years old, supplemental insurance in Albert County doesn't exist. If you got a 93955 area code now, if you go right up to San Jose and things like that, the benefits are completely different. And we was going to talk about those. But secondly, I talked to him about the fact that how many African Americans that he have on staff. And the thing is 0. So we vote for them 97%, over 90%. And we must end, I address the fact that we wanted to build our own offices our own space instead of utilizing Emerson's suite. Say for instance, there was over 500 acres of land that is still out there. And so I'm asking all of you to help us approach them to try to get at least between 5 and 10 acres of that land and build NAACP own building on that particular property. All right, John. Now, there's some people that I really got to talk about that's really great. It was my mentors, things like this. I had an opportunity to stay with Laird Langston. Laird Langston was the person that set up the March on Washington, even though Martin Luther King was the speaker on I Have a Dream speech. But the Laird Langston, they Philip Randolph was the movers and shakers. He Phillips was at that time was supporter, and he made sure that everybody got the early years news because he was on the train and they would carry it from place to place. Now, Yvonne just said the fact that she was, when she got ready to run and things like this, I really almost insist that she would come on and take over this presidency. And she is a person that I really, really think that deserves this award. I would rather see her have it. Share it with Pat Spencer. Pat, could we give Pat a round? She's a very really great person. And I was just telling Pat, I don't want to see her burn out, but she really, really does everything she can to make sure that everything is successful. The person that I asked to be here tonight and make sure that we got a chance to sit together is Berkeley Brandon. Now, I had in mind to try to tell Berkeley to Brandon to be the DA, but he turned me down completely. But I think he'll make a good district attorney. He is the chief district attorney right now. My friend and neighbor is Helen Rucker. Quite naturally, we all talk about Helen Rucker Watts, and we've all worked together. Mel and I go back, way back. One of the person that you probably didn't remember, Mel, was Dick.
I can't remember.
That's Dick Crowder.
Dick Crowder, yeah.
Dick Crowder was very much involved with us, trying to put things together back in the early days. So it was a lot of margin and things like that. Even with the farm workers, we got a chance to work directly with them. But I really, really appreciate this award, and I don't want you guys to be overcharged and burning up too much time. But have a safe trip back home, and Thank you. Thank you.
One more round of applause for our president. We're going to present the Medgar Evers Legacy Award that will be presented by the NAACP's Monterey County Executive Committee member and Associate Professor, Dr. Vanessa Lopez Littleton.
Good evening, everyone. Today I'm honored to give this award to one of my esteemed colleagues. But a little about the award before I do that. The Medgar Evers Freedom Legacy Award was established to honor an individual whose work fosters major civil rights advocacy that changes communities. Mr. Evers was the NAACP's first field secretary in Mississippi. He was instrumental in working to end segregation in public facilities. He was assassinated while working to expand opportunities for African Americans, including the enforcement of voting rights. This evening, I'm honored to shine a light on a pillar of this community and a personal hero, Stephen Goings.
I'm gonna take a couple.
Okay. Go about 10 pounds or 10 years?
Well, I can do the 10 years. I don't know about the pound, thank you.
It's really heavy, so I'm going to read a whole bunch of stuff about you. So hang on a second. So I want to talk about my dear colleague. So you guys bear with me for just 1 second. So Stephen is a proud Cal State Monterey Bay alum, where he received a baccalaureate degree in social and behavioral sciences in 2010, and a master's of social work in 2017. That's his people over there, you guys. Currently a counselor in the Personal Growth and Counseling Center at Cal State Monterey Bay. They are one of only 2 African-American male licensed as clinical social workers in the region. Stephen joined the Monterey County branch back in NAACP in 2011. They co-founded the CSUMB College Chapter in 2012 and became a Silver Life member soon after that. The root of Stephen's activism can be found in his deep belief that our spiritual potential is best actualized by contributing to our own communities. As an undergraduate, Stephen was a member of the Black Students United and the Honor Christian Fellowship. They co-founded numerous campus groups, including the LGBTQ+ Student Club Out and About, a multicultural interfaith discussion group, so aptly named. There are other organizations that Stephen was also responsible for, the Gathering, the Student Peace Alliance, and the list goes on. After graduating, Goings served as 1 year as the interim president of the Monterey Peace and Justice Center and 4 years in AmeriCorps with CSUMB's Service Learning Institute, where they developed a purposeful service opportunities program. In 2013, Stephen began an incredible association with the National Coalition Building Institute, where they also serve as an administrator of the Monterey County chapter. Stephen is now the director of the CSUMB campus affiliate, whose team delivers prejudice reduction workshops to hundreds of students each year. In 2017, Stephen was among those who helped to deliver and develop Monterey Peninsula Pride, a local nonprofit that, among other things, encourages a society where every ethnicity appreciates LGBTQ+ members as a vital part of their communities. Stephen is committed to improving the relationships between CSUMB and the local Black community. In doing the work, they established the historically Black church tour, the Monterey Bay Black Folks calendar, and has served this community well on many other committees, including the Super Saturday Committee, the All Black Gala Committee, and the Advisory Committee of the Helen Rucker Center for Black Excellence. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, Stephen assisted Mrs. Alice Jordan in hosting two Martin Luther King Day events with support from his Cal State Monterey Bay colleagues. Goings is leading the way. And so, anyone who knows Stephen, also known to his colleagues as Quasar, knows them to be kind, dedicated, energetic, and about the business of justice. While some folks give lip service to social justice, Stephen Quasar is an authentic truth teller who is known for getting things done and doing the work for a greater good. They are standing in the gap in the town and gown connection between Cal State Monterey Bay and the Black community. They truly have found their tribe, and we are that tribe. If I had one thing to say about Quasar, it would be this. Some people live a lifetime trying to do something that matters. Quasar has risen to the occasion and left an indelible mark on this community. He is the keeper of the public's trust and one from whom we can all learn a thing or two about service, dedication, and purpose. And it is my honor tonight to give this award to my co-conspirator, Mr. Stephen Goings, AKA Quasar.
I got up here way too early, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't see a thing without my glasses. Oh. Okay, well, let's start with some call and response, because it's like I gotta do this. I think you can catch on. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. You know, when we first started saying that, some people came up with a retort, all lives matter.
Right.
And so I had thought about that, and of course that's true. All lives matter. The reason why we said Black Lives Matter is because some lives were under target. Somebody's house was burning. That's why we say Black Lives Matter. So let's see if we can figure this part out. All lives matter when? Black lives matter. All lives matter when? Black lives matter. All lives matter when? Black lives matter. Okay, I'm going to do one more, see if you'll go with me, okay? So in the same kind of vein, in the Black community, the lives that are most under threat are trans lives. So Black lives matter when trans lives matter. Black lives matter when? Trans lives matter. Black lives matter when? Trans lives matter. Black lives matter when? Trans lives matter. Thank you. So I have some thank yous to do. So when I told my stepdad, Lacey, who also happens to be my best dad, that I was receiving this award, I said I thought it was premature, that I haven't done enough to earn it yet, and Lacey said that wasn't for me to decide. So as I said to our secretary, Pat Spencer, thank you, I accept. Of course, no one gets an award at a community event with whose accomplishments weren't made possible by their community. So I have many people to thank, starting with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who saw fit to spare my life 30 years ago for a higher purpose. Thank you, of course, to the Monterey County Branch NAACP for selecting me for this honor. I want to also extend my congratulations to Josh Stewart and to Victory Temple, Greater Victory Temple. I grew up in the Victory Temple apartments, by the way. So I want to thank the NAACP for selecting me, for Ed Armstrong, who I believe nominated me, and to Helen Rucker, who brought me into the NAACP in the first place, and Nell Mason, the first president under whom I served, and who has been my role model ever since. I want to thank Ann Jealous for donating in my name, which ended up paying for the tonight's videographer, Wes White. Round of applause for Wes White. And I offer and elicit thoughts and prayers for Fred Jealous, who either just had or is about to have open heart surgery. So prayers for Fred, of course. Thank you to my mom, Yvonne Kirkland, my best dad, Lacey Kirkland, who took me in when I returned from San Francisco 20 years ago, and especially to my best friend, Eric Rauterbush, who is more responsible than anyone for getting me off hard drugs 15 years ago. All subsequent accomplishments have been built on ending the cycle of addiction. I have also been extraordinarily fortunate in having been involved in some amazing institutions and to have had some amazing mentors. A shout out to my friends here from CSUMB in the house! But especially to Lynn White Dixon, who was the clinical supervisor who guided me. Lynn guided me from intern to licensed clinical social worker. A shout out to the Peace Coalition of Monterey County and the Monterey Peace and Justice Center, especially the late great Joyce Vanderveer, who was my mentor and brought me into the peace community, and to Catherine Crockett, who has anchored the peace community since Joyce's passing. A shout out to, last two paragraphs, a shout out to the Monterey County chapter of the National Coalition Building Institute in Seaside, and the great Sue Paris, who led the chapter for over 29 years, and whom I think is most deserving of a future award from the Monterey County branch for her years of partnership and leadership in challenging all forms of discrimination and oppression. And finally, a shout out to Monterey Peninsula Pride, a local nonprofit whose purpose, among others, is to encourage a society in which every ethnicity appreciates their LGBTQ+ members as a vital part of their communities. Good job. Now we just have to work on LULAC and the Coalition for Asian Justice. Thank you.
Next is the Talley and Cleo Martin Spirit of Partnership Award, and that will be presented by the branch's first Vice President, Mary Claypool.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank all of you for joining us for the 50th and 90th milestone tonight. It's been a great event, and thank you for all the exciting vibes in this building tonight. This evening I have the honor of presenting the Talley and Cleo Martin Spirit of Partnership Award. This award honors the legacy of Mr. and Mrs. Martin, who were the first Golden Heritage members in the Monterey County branch. Upon their deaths, they bequeathed part of their estate to the NAACP. The recipient of this award is a person, business, or organization which continually supports social justice and philanthropic endeavors. But before I present the award and talk about the recipient, I want to acknowledge the presence of 3 generations of the Martins. Teresa Martin King, great-niece, Sharonda King, great-great-niece, Lakai Williams, great-great-great-niece, and King Legend Williams, great-great-great-nephew. And they're at the table where Mel Mason is sitting right there. So thank you so much. As many of you already know from the program, this year's honoree is the Greater Victory Temple Church of God in Christ. Greater Victory Temple had its beginnings at 215 Franklin Street in downtown Monterey. when Elder S. Rudolph Martin, organizer and founder, along with 6 other members, held the first service on September 5th, 1943. After 6 months in that location and an increase of membership to about 15, the church moved to Del Monte Avenue in Seaside, where it remained until the opening of the church on Harcourt Avenue in November 1944. Pastor Martin had a vision of a new church on the adjacent lot and devised a system for pledges and donations to finance a project that would raise $10,000 for the restorations and on the church, and construction began in June 1979. After leading the membership for 37 years, in January 1980, Bishop Martin was called home, but his legacy lived on through his work. On August 29, 1980, Elder Wilburn Wyatt Hamilton was appointed to serve the Victory Temple Church. Pastor Hamilton also developed a plan, and he started a marathon fundraiser and to complete Bishop Martin's vision. November 27, 1983 was the closing of an era, and the congregation marched to the church at 1620 Broadway Avenue. In March 1985, Ronald Britt arrived at Greater Victory Temple and was ordained as an elder. In 1989, he served as a youth pastor and first assistant pastor. Elder Britt served under the leadership of his mentor and spiritual father, Bishop Hamilton, until his retirement. Pastor Britt was installed as the new pastor of Greater Victory Temple Church in February 2016. Because of Greater Victory Temple's commitment and service to this community, they have been chosen to receive this honor tonight. There have been many programs throughout the years implemented by the members of the church. Some of them are the after-school tutoring program, which also provides dinner to students and their family members, distribution of masks during the COVID pandemic, which we all still wear every now and then, COVID testing site, COVID vaccination clinics, Christmas giveaways for the children, which is always exciting, election polls site, which many of you have attended, I'm sure, because I know I have, the Work Alternative Program, Community Technology Center, the Community Food Bank, and a Drug and Rehabilitation Program, and the Divorce Care Program. That's just to mention a few. If you've been in this community any length of time, you know how much service they have given to this community and how many lives they have actually touched. At this time, I would like to ask Pastor Britt, and I see him over there, yes, to come forward and accept this award. And if Miss Teresa Martin King would also come forward, and we will present the award to Pastor Britt for the Victory Temple Church of Artis.
Family and President and NAACP, thank you. We're on the speaker's time, and I want to get out the way. And all I want to say, anything that all the churches do on this is for the glory and the honor of God. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to all our award recipients. Let's give them all another round of applause on the great work they've done over the years, over the decades with the Naacp Monterey County Chapter. Now we're going to move to our keynote speaker, and we're going to once again introduce back to the podium our President, Yvonne Thomas. She will introduce him.
I'm going to keep this introduction brief because I want to allow time for our keynote speaker, Kevin Douglas Green. Kevin Green grew up in Seaside, California, and he is the great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass. Now, those of us that attended school with Kevin, and I'm one of those, we didn't know that. Kevin, actually, I was a song leader at Seaside High School, and Kevin was a varsity football player at Monterey High. And as those of you remember back like 30, 40 years ago, we had really competitive football teams. And Kevin and I talk on Facebook. He lives in Tennessee now, and he never neglects to remind me when Monterey High beat Seaside High at a playoff game. And I'm still kind of holding a grudge. It's been like 40 years, but I'm still kind of holding a grudge. But tonight, I want to introduce our keynote speaker, my friend, who I'm still holding a bit of a grudge for, Mr. Kevin Douglass.
Thank you, Yvonne. I have a real quick housekeeping thing I need to do. So I have to set the mic down, give me just a moment, and I'm going to move out in the audience real quick. Ms. Ellie Rucker. Young lady. The idea, I'm used to speaking without a mic, so just excuse me. I have to get this in my right focus here. The idea of that is Miss Rucker, of course, you know, I don't have to explain anything about Miss Rucker, but she was, you know, for my generation, we attended school where she was a librarian, and just to be able to see. So the idea for me is whenever I come home, I give flowers to mothers and women around the city that was, I think, is important, friends of mine, that they all need to receive their flowers now. Young lady, that's what you should expect for the rest of your life. There's always you receive flowers. Not just because you're a lady, because you are doing things to show that you're a lady. It's okay. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what I'm here for. I'm the guest, you know, the keynote speaker, and I'm the great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass. As Yvonne mentioned, I neglected to tell people as I was growing up that being a descendant of Frederick Douglass. Well, you know, in retrospect, as I think about that, is that the important thing for me is that I was raised as Kevin Green, the son of Jean and Robert Green. Now, you know, my mother is a Douglass, and the fact that I was, you know, related to Frederick Douglass really didn't have a significant impact in our lives. You know, there's still that knowledge and pride, but I grew up in Seaside as Kevin Douglass Green. So I really think that's so very important in my life that I can say that in the way that I do. Now, Frederick Douglass and Anna Murray Douglass are my great-great-grandparents. And for Frederick Douglass being born into slavery, so he was an enslaved person, then Anna was a free person. So, you know, the time frame wise of, you know, not giving you all a history lesson on Frederick Douglass, we don't have time for that. But what I want to point out, what I think is very important about Frederick Douglass is two particular things. One is how he used education to not only in his term of being enslaved, but how he used that in the long range, and how that not only benefited in the abolishment of slavery, but also how that connects into with the NAACP. You know, we look at our forefathers in the 19th century, and look at the things they did within, Reconstruction and all those time frames all the way up to the early 1900s and the establishment of the NAACP. So another thing is, when did Frederick Douglass actually become free? Well, it wasn't when he got on a boat and trained and went left Baltimore, Maryland, and went to New York. It's when he had to fight with Mr. Colby. The fight with Mr. Colby, Frederick Douglass made a decision at that point of whether Mr. Colby would live or die. Now, a lot of us, we have weird situations where we have to make a decision that's going to affect us and can affect someone else. And whatever decision you make at that time, then you'll see what the consequences of that decision are later. And that decision was very, very important for Frederick Douglass. He said, no longer how long I be a slave, in fact, that in my mind and my soul, that I will now forever be a free man, just based on that incident with Mr. Colby. So, all the things that Frederick Douglass did in his life, I see very, very important. And, there are several of us descendants that later in our lives where we figured out how do we make Frederick Douglass relevant not only to us, he's always been relevant to us, but how do we take it out and make him relevant to everyone else? Well, my cousins, Kenneth Morris and Nettie Washington Douglass, so my cousins, they established the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative, and it's to end modern-day slavery and sexual trafficking. So taking what Frederick Douglass was doing in his time frame and realizing that, in these 20, this century, that these certain things still exist in different ways, but it's just not acceptable. So that organization is established to help try to do that. And so I partner with the organization to go out and speak, and that the book that is for auction is one of the books that we actually give away to young people as part of the 1 Million Abolitionists Project. Okay, so, again, my pride and my thinking and everything about Frederick Douglass and the Douglass family is really, really so important to me, even though I don't, basically wear it on my sleeve. I have this pen right here, which you have to get up close to see what it is, and you ask, and I'll tell you. But other than that, I do really enjoy being Kevin Douglas Green. And in that note, mi familia Seaside. So, even though I'm a champion of Monterey High School, I'm still Seaside. You remember when you did this past yes, for the junior high reunion. So I still wear my Seaside hat. So another thing for me to show, I also belong to another family. I'm Highland Street family, 1633. Okay? My father sold the house. I just happened to be there the week that the house was cleaned out, which I had never seen it that way before when we moved into it in 1966. And as I was walking away and I looked back and I seen the sign hanging there, I said, oh no, that's ours. The house might not be anymore, but this sign still belongs to the Green family. So I took the sign. Now, what Seaside means to me, okay? Now, there's a lot of things and places that I remember about Seaside. Some of the things I remember about Seaside, just real quick, that I wanted to go through is, for instance, in the 1960s, when we moved here, I went to Manzanita Elementary School. And actually, I think if y'all think about it, within the the restructuring and renaming and everything of the schools in Seaside, Manzanita was the last school that was actually built in Seaside. That was opened in 1965, 66. That was actually the last school that was built in Seaside. So, now, with that, I remember also, the pit, MBS, of course, Nations, Mel's, food quarter markets. So I can go through all these different things that I remember about Seaside, because I'm talking about my generation from the 60s and 70s. So in the 70s, okay, so I went to King Junior High School, Martin Luther King Junior High School, okay? I realized it was named Portola, when it was first opened. Another thing I remember about, the 70s, of course, is, King, we had sock hops. We had sock hops at lunchtime. I remember going, we had, dances after school, different things like that. Being able to just go all over the city, do all kinds of different things. So that was the 70s, and then, rolling into the 80s, I was here for early 80s, went to school MPC, I was into low riding. I had a 73 Buick Centurion Jade Green with a white top. It was the only one between here and who knows? So it was just obvious car. I was very proud of it. But that's just part of the things of my Seaside. But for me, Seaside is the people. The people that I remember are Seaside. I got, even though I don't have blood family in Seaside any longer, I have family. I have the James family that's here for me tonight. So all the James family that's here. I was also thinking about, I said, well, I really don't have any more family anymore. And then I realized, I was like, oh man, I seen Mr. Z. Ziegler. See, Z is my uncle, because he was married to my aunt at one time. So Z's family. So I still have family here, okay? So I still got Highland Street family. Both sides of the park. 1600 block and 1700 block. I remember we've experienced things in Seaside. I've experienced death at an early age. Stephen McKinney hit by a car at an early age. Henry Porter shot just a couple of doors down from my house on Highland Street. Chucky Horn, he was also shot later in the that might have been early 80s. And so I've seen death also, but also I'm very proud to say for my generation I've seen success. We see entrepreneurs. We see a lady president of the Monterey County branch, NAACP, Yvonne Thomas. And like I said, even though we were at different high schools, we still participated in the cotillion leagues, doing things like that. So I'm very proud of the things that she's done. I know I have friends who are doctors and lawyers that have come out of Seaside, and like I said, entrepreneurs. I don't know how many of you actually counted, but in the 70s up to the mid-80s, we can count at least one professional football player for each year that came out of Seaside during that time frame. I'm proud to be able to have grown up right next door to Herman Edwards, who I consider as a brother. So, when I talk about Seaside and I think about things, I think about, the places and things in Seaside. Like I said, it is the people of Seaside that's most important to me. To be able to recognize and talk about and just, hey, we were sitting in Deja Blue yesterday and we run in there, run into somebody we know, be able to sit there and talk, have conversations. That's just Seaside to me. So another one thing before I get ready to close out here, that I really think was something that I learned and realized once I was in the Army for several years, and actually when I became a non-commissioned officer, and how important it was to be a non-commissioned officer. I started thinking back to the men and women of the military in our community, and realizing that being able to, how we talk about being able to walk in someone else's boots and experience things. Well, now I was able to walk in the shoes of my elders in the military, but the difference was that I was able to walk on paved roads compared to the experience that they had to go through as military people, to be able to when I'm talking about, even though I still know, I know colonels and majors and sergeant majors and command sergeant majors, first sergeants, all these people within our community, that I did not know the significance of their military experience now that they're just in the community, And so for those of you who are still here, and for those who are no longer here, I thank you for the path that the things that you had to experience for me to be able to experience the 20 years in the United States Army that I did, and to be successful and it not be the same struggle that you had to go through. So that just shows we are able to make a difference for the generations that come after us. And so we are seeing that tonight, that the difference is looking at, again, Ms. Rucker, Ms. Watts, Mr. Mason, is, these are people, I tell people, you guys you've matured very well. So when we were in high school, we used to think you guys were old. And just to think, here we are 40 years later, y'all are still here with us. And not only are you guys still here with us, you guys are still spearheading the same train of thought that you had back then for this community. And that's what I see that's really important, that you haven't given up. You can't give up. And we appreciate all that you've done and all that you do and all that you will do. And so I think that's very, very, very important. So again, as get ready to close this out, again, I just, to be able to be invited to an event of this significance for an organization of this significance is very humbling to me. And I know it's not just because I'm the great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass. It's because of things that I've done since I've, not only since, while I was in Seaside and since I left Seaside, that allowed me to get to the position for you guys to consider me the keynote speaker for this event. So I'm so very, very proud of that, and I'm just very, very proud to be here. Like I said, I was standing at the door, people might ask a question, hey, the table's over here. That's just what I do when I go places. I become a part of the event. I'm not just a keynote speaker. I have to be a part of it. And then this morning, the Mingo Highland Park, not Mingo, but it's the Otis Highland Park. We call it Mingo Park because that's our park. But anyway, I was able to go up there and be able to help up there. And just run and talk to Dave and talk about old things about Seaside and talk about names. And so that's, again, the people of Seaside is what really, really resonates in me. And wherever I go around the world, you know, it used to be a lot more. Earlier in my first beginning of my military career, I couldn't go anywhere, you know, Germany, different places without running into someone that was from Seaside. And that's, you know, really basic because of the military influence. So, as I close this down, I want to thank everyone again. And as I mentioned, that my mantra was for this was going to be, me familiar, Seaside. Thank you.
All right.
Great words we just heard from our keynote speaker there. Okay, we want to move on to our remembrance. If you want to join us on page 15, we have Miss Ruthie Watts will come up and present that. She's our NAACP Religious Affairs Committee Chair.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. I know it's been a long evening, and I shall be brief. The Lord give us, and the Lord take us away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. These are the life members of the NAACP who have gone on to be with God. In loving memory shall I read. Mr. William Rasmussen passed away about 3 weeks ago, who was a life member of the NAACP. Mr. Dan Daniels, he was a member of the San Francisco chapter of the NAACP, Western Area Regional Director. And every time we had an event here in the Monterey Peninsula, he always came to be a part of our program. Mr. Leroy Davis, a life member of the NAACP. Mrs. Rose D. Berry, a life member of the NAACP. Mrs. Connie Glover, a life member and the membership chair for many years. Mr. Fred Hope, past president of the Salinas branch of the NAACP. Mrs. Mary Owens, life member, and she was buried about 3 months ago, and she's a very school teacher and very active in the community. Dr. Marie Sweet, life member of the NAACP. Mrs. Minnie Todd, who passed away about, 3 weeks ago, Mel?
Yeah.
She was 105 years young.
Right.
And Mr. William R. Watts Sr., my husband, who passed away. God give us, God take us away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
We're going to hear closing remarks now from our president, Yvonne Thomas.
There were numerous events on the Monterey Peninsula this evening, and over 250 of you decided to come here tonight.
Amen.
Right.
So we thank you. Before we close out, I want to acknowledge the people that put this event together, which are the executive committee members and the banquet committee members of the NAACP. You're all out there. Would you please stand? And there's one person that I want to acknowledge. I don't see her right now. Our branch secretary, Pat Spencer. Pat is the glue that holds the Monterey County branch. She did so much work. Thank you so much, Pat, for helping me in my first year as president and for devoting so many tireless hours to our branch. I don't know if you all realize that these are volunteer positions. So a lot of people work, have full-time jobs. And then the NAACP on top of it. It was really a challenge pulling this banquet together in COVID. We canceled it 3 times. But we finally brought it together tonight. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you all for being here, for choosing to be here. And we only have a few more things to go, and then we'll let you go. But thank you.
You know, it's been a long evening, but thank you for sticking with us. We are going to hear a musical performance, Lift Every Voice and Sing. We're going to have that by Miss Brenda Thomas, the sister of Yvonne Thomas.
Good evening, everybody. This is not a performance, you know you're all going to sing. I just want to say before you all stand up, don't stand up yet. Because they gave me the mic, and I'm the sister who talks on the mic. But I just want to give a shout out to Seaside. Because this is what Seaside used to be, okay? And now Seaside is back. We used to have some fun here in Seaside. And like Kevin was saying, we have some serious history here. But do any of you know that Martin Luther King Jr. visited Seaside? Martin Luther King's mother played the organ at Fort Ord Chapel, and his father spoke at the Fort Ord Chapel. We've had 6 black mayors. We had a city council member in the 40s, a black city council member. Seaside is full of history, and the full story hasn't been told. But we're back after COVID, and we got a lot to celebrate. A lot to celebrate. Seaside used to have a black grocery store, Winners Market. Seaside had 2 photographers. How many people took their senior picture at Camera Masters or John Perkins Studio? Yes. We had 3 black-owned gas stations. We had 3 black bankers. One of them was my dad, Crockett Bank loan manager. You know, we have a lot of history. We've done a lot in Seaside. Like I said, the story has not been told of who we are. I worked all over the country. And when people say, where's Seaside? I tell them, it's a little chocolate city with a little swirl to it. I've told that all over the country. I've been in property management for 45 years, and I've worked serving my people all over the country. But I'm back home. I just joined the team of Hamilton, Ellis, and Martin as their combined specialists. And I'm home to help my people. Good. Back. All right. Be proud of your home because we have a rich history. And I love Seaside. And with all that pride that I have for this town, I also have pride for my family. That's my baby sister. Yeah. And I tease her all the time, her entire life. But tonight, you done good. You done good. The pride we have in being Black Americans, being colored Americans. The song we're going to sing was written for us, but I want you to stand and sing it with pride. The words are written in the back of the book. All right. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the
out of our weary years, out of silent tears, that who has lost us are on the way. Now who has died, listen to the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Bless our feet, stray from the places our gods have demanded. Bless our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world we forgot. Shall we meet thy hand, living forever sent, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you so much.
One more thing before we leave, guys. One more thing. We have a benediction. But I also just want to take time to remind you. We do have a benediction. I just want to take time to remind you the silent auction is still going on 10 minutes after we finish here. And also the centerpieces on your table if you would like to take them home. Your best offer, there's a sign-up sheet also over at the silent auction if you'd like to take the centerpiece home. Now I'd like to introduce the benediction, our last event of the evening by Reverend Elaine German with the Unitarian Universalist Church in Monterey. Thank you.
I invite you to bow your heads for our benediction. Dearest God, Heavenly Parent of us all, source of life and love, we are so grateful for this time we have had together, for all the labor and love that has gone into this gathering, and for all of your dedicated servants, all of the drum majors for justice who are continuing the great work that has been done by so many for so long. With gratitude, we honor the work and the workers of the past 90 years who have inspired us and improved the conditions of life for so many in this community. And we recognize that while so much progress has been made, there is still more work to do. And it's going to take all of us working together. May we leave here recommitted to creating the beloved community here on earth, co-creating the world we dream of living in, and humbly ask for your blessings on each one of us as we go forth, building a world of more love and more justice, more equity, and more peace. With sincere and grateful hearts we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. And that concludes our event. Thank you everyone that came out here for the 50 and 90th celebration. Everyone have a great night. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for KSBW Action News 8 Weekend Sunrise.